Hello, welcome to this DCS F-16 tutorial. In this video, I will cover navigation utilized with Steerpoints, Markpoints, TACAN, and ILS. To begin with, we have the HSD, Horizontal Situation Display page, that acts as our SA, Situational Awareness in this aircraft. On this page, we have these rings that symbolize a SAM threat, the green, which symbolizes a friendly aircraft. The red that just disappeared a second ago indicates a hostile aircraft. On the upper left, we have a range, in this case 120 miles, from us to the end. Right now, you can see it is decoupled, so it is pushed. We can see a little bit more ahead of us. We could click that to make it coupled, and we are now in the center. But it also fixes the range shown. I'll put it back to decoupled and bring that range down with these arrows. You can see that changes, so now from us to the outside is 30 miles. I'll put that back to 120 so I have a better idea of what's happening around me. The small X underlaid on our plane right there symbolizes a steer point or a mark point. The same with these circles here and the lines connecting them. The solid circle indicates the currently selected steer point, in this case shown up on this display as steer point 2. I can cycle between steer points, also known as waypoints in other aircraft, with this rocker increment decrement switch here. So I can press down, and now it is steer point 1, and steer point 1 now has the solid circle. Can go back up, and now 2 has the solid circle. That is our currently selected steer point that we want to interface with. If we wanted to manually jump to a certain steer point rather than using the increment switch, we can click steer point, push button 4, and this changes to the steer point input information page. We can see we have steer point selected with the asterisks, and if we wanted to say go to steer point 4, I could type in 4 and then press enter. And now it shows the information for steer point 4. If I wanted to input a steer point coordinate manually, I would go to the first empty steer point, in this case 5, either by my increment switch or by clicking steer point and typing in 5. If you mistype, you can click RCL, the recall button, to clear your input. So 5, enter, and it selects 5. To select the next line that we want to input information, we will hit dauber switch down. It selects manual. We will ignore that. That shows we are inputting it manually. Dauber switch down. And now it's selected latitude coordinates. You notice here it is in 2 sets of 2 zeros and then a third set of 3. In our F10 map, that is not the default format of the coordinates. We have by default 3 sets of 2 rather than 2 sets of 2 and 1 3. So we will press left alt and Y to change our coordinate mode until we see the appropriate format of 2 sets of 2 and then a third 3 number option. So let's say I wanted to fly towards these targets. I could either click the target and get the coordinate information from the pop-up display, or utilize a landmark out in the world, say this dot or this corner of this triangle, put my mouse over it, and then utilize the information shown there. That shows where the cursor is pointing. For ease of this example, I'll just use a unit's coordinates, but you can do it the same exact way using your cursor to put a mark point or a steer point anywhere on the map. So here it shows our north is 4157145. I will type N for north, push button 2. You can see there's an N right there in the bottom corner. 4157 4157 145 145. Enter. Now we can dauber down to select the east, but you'll notice there is a third digit on the front number. All we need to do after we input east is to input 0 and then our coordinate. So I'll select 6 for east. See there's an E down there in the corner. East, 0. And then I will input the east coordinates. 4208, 4208, 294, 294. Enter. I will now dauber down to select elevation. And I will get the elevation from our display, 659. 659. Enter. And now we have Steerpoint 5 selected. You can hit return. Steerpoint 5 is selected. And it is shown as selected here by the filled in circle on our HSD. So if I wanted to fly off to these targets, I would input the coordinate, the steer point, and then fly towards this selected steer point, in this case steer point 5, on my HSD. Easy as that. For mark points, it is very similar. An easiest way to do this is to get yourself into air to ground mode. Seen here. Remember our cycle button. We will press mark. We can go to all of these different options with the sequence option on the dauber. For now, we're only going to be concerned with HUD. At this point, I can move my radar cursor control down and then press TMS up, and it will make a mark point wherever this cursor was. So this mark point is shown as 28. So if I wanted to select that mark point, we still have steer point 5 selected. I can press steer point, and I will type in 28. 28, enter. And now it has selected the mark point we have just entered. So now we have a nice home base that we can fly back to. You can also utilize this in the air, which I'll demonstrate now. And that will allow you to set a mark point just somewhere out in the world at a position of interest, whatever you deem. Altitude. All right, so I'll fly over towards the steer point that we had set. In this case, I'll select steer point 5. I'll reduce the scale to make it easier to fly to. There is our steer point 5. and I'll just fly over there. Navigation as easy as that. On our HUD, we have this line on this circle. This is telling us our currently selected steer point is off in this direction. On the bottom, it has our estimated time of arrival, 1 minute and 19 seconds at our current airspeed. It also has our distance, about 12 miles, and our steer point 5. Now that I'm turning into where it's directing me for the steer point, you will see the line is now pointing directly ahead, and our currently selected steer point now shows a diamond on the ground in air-to-ground mode. The diamond persists no matter what mode we are in, so that tells us where our steer point is. Let's say something down there piqued my interest and I wanted to mark it for later. I could return to the main part, hit mark, and the same as before, I will go into air to ground, mark, and the circle I will move with my radar cursor controller, put it over wherever I want the mark point to be, in this case there, TMS up, and now we have set mark point, steer point 29, where we hit TMS up. I will go select the 29 we just put in, steer point 29, enter. And now you will see in our helmet and on our HUD, a diamond has moved to our currently selected steer point or mark point, in this case 29. Very useful feature. That's all fine and dandy, but what if we don't have the ability to set a mark point or a steer point, or we want to navigate to an airfield? Let's talk about TACAN. Your Tactical Air Navigation System is utilized by first return to the main menu and clicking push button 1 T-ILS, TACAN-ILS. Here you will see new options. I'm going to make sure my dauber selected cursor is showing the center, and I will press sequence to change the upper portion to T/R. Pressing sequence will change through a variety of options. For these land TACANs, we will want it on T/R transmit receive. This will allow us to get distance and bearing information from the TACAN station. To get that information, I will find the airport, I will click it, and on the pop-up on the left, it will show us TACAN information and also ILS information. So TACAN for Senaki is 31X. I will input under the channel, dauber down, channel is selected, 3, 1, enter. I can dauber down to select the frequency. That is for the ILS. So on Senaki, the ILS is 10890. 10890, enter. And then the course on the runway that I want to be entering at can be shown by the runway numbers or utilizing the ruler tool. So coming from west to east would be runway 9090, or more accurately, I can zoom in, ruler tool along the runway, and is actually about 094. So I'll go ahead and do that. 094, enter. It is blinking because it does not like the designation with the 0. So I will go ahead and hit return, go back into the ILS, course 94, enter. and now it is selected. If our TACAN station was on Y instead of X, we could dauber over to channel and select one of the options there. I'll make an update on how to specifically change that in a future video. All right, so now we have our TACAN selected, our ILS selected. How do we utilize that information to get to the airfield? Well, down between your legs is your HSI, horizontal situation indicator, and you will see a variety of lines here. This middle button mode, we will click to select TACAN. That is telling us our plane we want to navigate to our TACAN station. The TACAN is off to this arrow on the outer ring. I will go ahead and spin this right-hand knob with my mouse wheel to set our course line, CRS, to the same as our desired runway heading, so 094. This is the direction we want to approach the desired station from. So what we want to do is fly towards this broken line in the center until it is completely lined up with the inner arrow, and then line up the inner arrow with the outer arrow. So I'm going to fly towards the line until this intersects with this. Additionally, because we set our TACAN to transmit receive, we have a distance from us to the TACAN of about 12.7 miles. Utilizing the information in my helmet, I can fly this completely heads down as if I was in no visibility condition. I'm approaching the line, I'm going to turn into it. All right, that inner line is about lined up. Slightly pushed over to the left, so I know I need to come left a little bit. And then all I'm going to do is fly that directly in, and that'll put me on course for the runway. All right, now that it's all in line, I'm going to put the outer arrow at the 12 o'clock position, and I know that I'm flying directly towards that runway. If I look up, I should see it out ahead of me. Hey, there it is. There's the runway. Your TACAN station is not going to be directly on your runway. It's going to be off to the side somewhere, so this is just going to get you close enough. If you're utilizing a Steerpoint, you would put this in NAV mode. And the same concept applies. It's just directing you to your currently selected Steerpoint. Put this back on TACAN. At this point, you could come in for your landing, navigate to another area, or whatever you feel like doing. That covers basics for navigation. There are much more in-depth uses of all of these tools, but they'll be covered in a later video. Thanks for watching.